afternoon and welcome to the full Scottish on Broadcasting Scotland. I'm Corri Wilson and our guests this week are Ronnie Cowan MP for Inverclyde and James Dornan MSP for Glasgow Cathcart. Welcome to you both.
Afternoon.
So this week saw Parliament's returning, both of you were back, and in Holyrood the Scottish Government get down to business with their programme of government. You made a speech earlier on in the week about mental health, and am I right in saying there was cross-party support for the mental health investment?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, certainly the principle of it, there's no doubt that some of the parties will look to sort of tweak it at the edges of it and suggest it's not enough or it's maybe not been targeted in the appropriate places. But I think in the main, there was cross-party support for the general principle of the money going in early. Some parties saying it should have been done before, but I think that everybody welcomes the funding that's been put in and the emphasis on put in early years, schools and colleges and further in higher education, definitely.
Good. Ronnie, you have an interest in drugs policy. Is there a link to mental health?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, Corey. I scribbled down a word down here when looking at it earlier on, and I wrote down marginalise. And it's a thing we managed to do with people with mental health issues, is we marginalise, we categorise them, and almost as if we're saying these people are beyond help, they're beyond anything we can do for them, and it's comfortable for us to push them to the side of society. And if you look at the statistics for people who are using drugs, people using recreational drugs, 90% of them people use a recreational drug without any issues whatsoever. Of those 10% of people who are problematic users, the vast majority of them have suffered from physical, sexual or psychological abuse and it's mental health issues which they are self-medicating with to protect themselves from the damage that's already been done to them. And we marginalise those people with drug issues the same as we do people with health issues.
So do you both think that early intervention is the key to being able to?
I would say education and support, and as early as you can get it in there where people can understand what's happening to them, where are they going, why are they isolated, why are they having those problems, and can step up and talk about that as soon as possible before they find themselves doing themselves damage. Your brain can do an awful lot of great things, but we know there's the chemicals within the body. If you're generating the wrong ones, you can find yourself on that path. And if you've got somebody there who can say, stop, hold on, this is what's happening to you. You can control it, you can work with it, and as soon as at the early stage we can do that in the process, then obviously the better the outcome we can seek.
Two of the great things that came out, in my view, of the programme for government around mental health is the fact that there's going to be counsellors available for every secondary school, and there's going to be counsellors available for primary schools as well, but also that teachers are going to be in the interim are going to be getting a training to sort of recognise the signs of mental health, because Ronnie's spot on. I mean, you see those that end up in prison, many of them have got drug problems and many of them have got mental health problems. And it's not a coincidence, it's the same pathway that takes you from that boy at school that if you had recognised that there was an issue there was clearly something wrong in the house, that you could have dealt with it, it would have saved them getting into that life of crime, saved them getting into that life of depression that starts them to taking drugs, starts them getting into a life of crime, ends up being in prison, his life's ruined, his family's life's ruined, the taxpayers paying a fortune to look after somebody, where if that money had been invested at the early years, we would have eventually saved a lot of money and saved a good number of quality lives at the same time. So yeah, early intervention is crucial both in mental health and therefore in the case of drugs as well.
The figure, actual numbers are every £1 spent on help and support saves you £3 later down the line in NHS treatment and £7 in the judicial system. And I've said before, down the road at Westminster, even if you don't care about these people, it makes good financial sense, which is what a lot of Westminster governments just only seem to revolve around spreadsheet type politics. So if they don't care about these people, that's their problem, that's their issue. But actually, it makes good financial sense to spend the money early at an early intervention.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there seems to be a chain of thought that there's a link with mental health and what's called social issues. So a bit like what you said there, James, if people are having a crisis period, now it could be because of relationship breakdowns or all sorts of things. If that is dealt with at that point, then it doesn't manifest to later on when it becomes a real serious mental health issue if it's dealt with properly in the beginning.
Teachers and everybody, we can't always put the onus on teachers. Let's be clear. Even in schools, there's others there that the janitor, everybody that's involved should be able to say, That's not how Johnny usually behaves. Why is he behaving like this? You know, he's never usually been aggressive before, or he doesn't usually sit in the corner and not talk to his mates. There must be something going on here. And just try and tease out them gently what it is. And sometimes we know that. I was convener of education for 2.5 years, right, until last Thursday, and we saw quite clearly that the link between what's going on in the house and then how you perform in school, and then carrying on right through your life, is absolutely huge. So getting that early, the catching the early signs of it will help to break the link a long time before it becomes much, much harder to break through. So it's for me, it's the most important thing in that programme for government.
Good. Over to Westminster, Ronnie, and obviously this week Theresa May announced a European arrest warrant for the 2 suspects for the Skipples attempted murder case. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, okay. This is one of those stories which is going to run and run and run. For the moment it happened, everybody had an idea. Everybody was jumping in and saying it was them, it was the next people, it was a government conspiracy, there's so much going on there. And really, okay, we're down the path now, and we've been told these 2 guys have been spotted coming through an airport, walking down the street together. But as soon as that happens, people are on there going, oh, that's obviously photoshopped. Why did they come through those gates at exactly the same time? And you'd expect at this stage in an inquiry there would be hard evidence. I'm not saying this didn't happen, but you just think that the way the story's been portrayed, the way it's been rolled out through the media, is this story's going to run and run and run. It's one of those classic stories maybe that we'll actually never really know, because it lends itself to so many conspiracy theories getting hung around it. You know, the Russians are coming here and the poison. It's like a story. It's like a story, a piece of fiction for a John le Carre or whatever. Absolutely. So people are going to be always, unless all the facts can come out, and they wouldn't do that, and it's always for security reasons. I know people have got briefings and say, yeah, but you know, if you knew this, but the truth will probably never be known in its entirety. And while you've got that situation, people will always put on their layer of conjecture and to help their own causes as to how they want the outcome to be. So it's going to be a difficult, complex issue, and until all the facts, maybe that'll be 25 years from now when these things become in the public domain, maybe 50 years from now, people will say, okay, fine, I get it now. But at this moment in time, it's a story that will run and run, and lots of people want to use it for their own particular agendas.
Yeah, I kind of agree with everything that Ronnie says there, that no matter the facts, and we will never know the facts because we're dealing with governments who just never tell you everything about situations like that. There's always a wee bit held back for security reasons, and therefore it gives you that opportunity to put your own twist on and however you see it. But whatever the facts of it are, it's not been dealt with well. The public, the way it's been dealt with in public, you know, where they're saying this is the most deadly poison that you can use, but the police don't have protective clothing on, and you know, it's just not led itself to being easily believed. And I'm not for a second saying that this A, didn't happen, B, that the Russians weren't involved. What I'm saying is that it could have been handled much better, and the way that everybody's done it has allowed this conspiracy theory to be built up round about it, and I suspect it will last for some time to come, until the next one.
Yeah. Sticking with the UK government, it came to light this week that the Northern Ireland Secretary Karen Bradley didn't know anything about the country before she took the post.
Yeah. Well, this isn't new. Quite often government ministers are given a post and they don't know anything about the remit they're walking into. Now, you can do this in a number of things. The idea being that you're a good manager, so you can manage the team that's there already. But there's certain issues you'd think, and it's happened she's not the first minister to have this situation, but you would have thought, just being a member of Parliament in the UK Parliament, you would have some basic grasp of the fact that there's unionists and nationalists in Northern Ireland, and they're not going to vote for each other, which seemed to be one of the premises she was going with. So, yeah, I'm all for people standing up and saying, no, I don't know everything about this, I'm new to the post, I've got to learn about it. But you think there's going to be some premise in there where you go into a position, and from day one you're thinking, what's this about, what's my job, get myself briefed. And not understanding some of the fundamentals of the conflicts within Northern Ireland over all these years really is beyond the pale.
Two things I would say about it. One is that they should never do modern studies, and the second is that this is completely and utterly indicative of Westminster's attitude towards Ireland. the island of Ireland, Northern Ireland, which is still under their remit, they don't care about it. They only care about it in terms of what use it is to them. And I mean, we've seen it through the whole Brexit process. The border issue, what border issue? There's no border issue until there's a border issue, and then they didn't have a clue about it. They never gave it any thought whatsoever. So I'm not surprised by this at all. Well, that's not true. Of course I am. I'd have thought anybody over 18 would have known that, you know, in Ireland, the Nationalists voted one way, the Unionists voted another way. But I'm kind of not surprised that Ireland is not on their agenda, because Ronnie's down there. I'm blessed to be in the real Parliament, and down there it seems to me that the focus is only about the southeast of England. It's about that sort of little England island that there is down there, and the rest of the north of England doesn't matter, and we certainly don't count as far as they're concerned. It's like the blooming, it's like Zulu. You're in that fortress and that, and you're trying to fight all these Tories off.
Am I Michael Caine?
You are the
I would do it in a Michael Caine accent, but I can't do any accent.
Just not do a Welsh singer, but that's
You're right. I think you're in what you said there, but what you've got to understand is that to run the Westminster Parliament, you only need the power in the southeast of England. There's many political. So that's what they do. They're looking to get themselves re-elected. Do we have to bother? Well, hold on. Northern Ireland doesn't vote for Conservative MPs. Handy if we've got 10 DUP on board, which we can buy and bring them on. Exactly. But beyond that, there is that air of we don't engage. We do visits. You know, a government minister was sent over to do a visit, you know, and that's sort of paying lip service to it. But they've never really embraced the whole idea of what Northern Ireland is about, what Ireland is about. You know, and right now, because there's not a devolved power in place to actually govern and to speak for the people of Northern Ireland, they are taking those decisions themselves, which is why the Northern Secretary should be even more up to speed with her brief. And she's not got the devolved powers, or people in devolved Parliament, to advise and guide and explain their situation to us. They should be all over this like a rash. You know?
There's a lesson to Scotland there, but because what's happened is that Westminster has de facto imposed direct rule on Northern Ireland, and so we always have to be very careful about what we're doing down there, because he didn't proclaim that they've imposed direct rule, but at the end of the day, civil servants are making the decisions in Northern Ireland now because there's no assembly, and it must be very worrying for the people of Northern Ireland, and I think it's a lesson for us all, because you talk about you only need the votes in the southeast of England, and you're right, and of course, and if I was a Westminster government with Westminster focus and thinking about getting re-elected, that would be where my focus is. And that's why I say that we need independence, because they quite rightly, when they're making economic decisions, are doing it based on what the most people want, and the most people are down there. But you can't at the same time say that we're a union of equals, whilst at the same time treating one part of it as much more important than the rest of it. And that's the dichotomy that they have.
And that happens in the regions of England as well.
Absolutely.
I worked in Darlington for 7 years, and the people there have an attitude towards Westminster as they don't know what's happening here.
Exactly.
Or even in Brighton, people have this attitude. It's all coalesces into this very tight-knit group of people and organisations who are all on each other's doorstep all the time. Yeah. And they're meeting together, they're having dinners together, they're talking, they're planning. Away from Westminster, there's a lot of it's the power. It's not just the politics; it's the power. And to have your banking sector so close to your government, to have your civil servants so close to government, all based on top of each other. We're all on the outside knocking, trying to get into to get our voices heard.
The City of London should have that guy that sits in, can't remember his name now, but that sits in every meeting of Parliament.
City of London have extra powers where they can access Parliament and they can talk. I spoke to the Mayor of London, and he's been more involved in the Brexit discussions than the First Minister of Scotland.
Oh, yeah.
And he said it in such a casual manner. It was, well, I'm here, we get together and we talk, and I go, how often? Oh, on a regular basis. Hold on. How come? And it's just that, being close together, and eating in the same places, travelling in the same places, you'll always have that tighter relationship and a more casual relationship where you can have these conversations and get to know people better, which is good for the government if we all get that access. But ours are all very formal and we don't have that. And the Brexit negotiations gave us an opportunity to embrace the devolved powers and say, okay, fine, let's get together, we'll listen to you respectfully, and we can build some sort of plan here to get us out of this mess.
Also shows
But
you
they never embraced that.
Yep, and it also shows you the difference between the opportunities in government in a small country of roughly 5 million, just to pick that number out the top of my head, and a large country like a larger country like the UK. Everybody's got access to people here. You know, like so people talk about it all the time, how you'll see ministers coming into community groups or speaking to small businesses or whatever. It's much easier to get access to people here than people in power here than it is down south. And I think part of that is because our ministers up here, and I wouldn't even say it was just us, I think we're better at it than others were before, but our ministers have been, remember why they're there, and some ministers down there just see the whole power thing and they get treated as if they're really, really special. And they start to believe it very, very quickly.
Yes, absolutely. I've often looked at Westminster since I've been there for 3 years, and I'm thinking, did this happen by accident or design? And whatever the answer to that is, it suits the way it works right now, so they don't want to change it and upset it. They're very scared to make any change, however small it might seem on the surface. I don't think they're smart enough to actually design what they've got. Like, over the period of time, it's sort of evolved this way, and it's been adjusted there, but the system they've got suits the way they want to govern the United Kingdom right now.
Yeah.
I think there was a video campaign recently this week about young people in Northern Ireland who had not grown up within the Troubles, and they were saying they were very adamant that they did not want to be dragged back into that scenario. Their parents have told them how awful it was, and they don't want to go back to that era.
Yes, and I watched the Channel 4 Dispatches documentary last night on Ballymurphy, and it was very interesting because it took that perspective of the kids back then in 1971, where the Troubles were not what they were going to escalate into being. So these adults now still had a memory of what it was like beforehand, and how it had grown into this situation and then lived through all the Troubles. And they're sitting there now saying, we do not want to go back to that situation. We've lived through those horrors of community turning on community, people being burnt out of their houses, and people in so the society had turned upside down for a long, long time. And then they saw they slid into that piece by piece by piece. And we've got to be very careful how we deal with Northern Ireland just now.
I would say I'm old enough to remember when the Troubles kicked off, and I remember the equal rights, the civil rights marches and stuff like that, John Hume and others, but there were opportunities at different times to take a different path, and I'm talking for everybody involved here. And once we get past Bloody Sunday, it became much more difficult for a long period of time. That sort of set the tone for some of the communities to take the path that they took. I'm not saying that there was nothing going on before that, because there clearly was, but there were landmarks during that period where, if onlys could easily have been put in place, and the Troubles could have lasted a lot less time than they did. And there's a lot of people from all sides, I think, that are culpable for keeping this going for so long.
It's the same mistakes we've made time and time again even since then. We've still got a colonial attitude where you go into a country and try and subdue the local population and say, do it our way. And time we've shown that when you try to do that, you turn the population against you. We tried it in various areas in Afghanistan as well, and we tried to hit down hard when we should be saying to people, what do you want for your country? How can we help you get to there? And we didn't do it in Northern Ireland, we don't do it across the world. And I say the word colonialism, imperialism, just rings away through it, and we're seeing it now with a lot of rhetoric. We're getting around Brexit again, which enters every single conversation. We think they dubbed it Empire 2.
Yes, bro.
Never said, you've got to be joking. Do you remember Empire 1? I was talking to a woman who's now in the Canadian Parliament, and she's originally from India, I believe. And this was just when Brexit was just happening. We just voted for it. And she said, does the UK government think they're going to go back to the overseas territories and negotiate? We learned our lesson the first time, she said. And there's still that attitude, we'll go back there and we'll start trading with this country and they'll welcome back with open arms. They've moved on from that. They've moved on from UK and imperialism, and they're looking for a different future. Yeah.
One of the funny things was when funny, sad, tragic, I suppose, still funny, was when May went over to India and was trying to organise this big deal to say, look, we can still work with all our formal colonies. And the guy from India was like, yeah, we'd be more than happy to do that. Freedom of movement for goods, as long as we can have freedom of movement for our people.
Yeah.
And that was it, you know. And that's the attitude they've got. We want, but we won't give. And because we are England, it's not because we're Britain, it's not because we're United Kingdom, it's because we're England and we were your colonial masters, and you should still appreciate the things that we've given. I think I've never seen a government quite as incompetent or so caught in the past as this one has allowed itself to be, because I don't believe for a second that people like me are like that. You know, that these colonialists. I don't even believe that Boris Johnson is. I think he is whatever he has to be to become whatever he wants to be. But they're allowing people like Mogg and that to lead them by the nose, and it's just scary, terrifying.
Talking about Boris, obviously he's been hitting the headlines this week, and it now appears to be that Number 10 was behind his the revelations. And is that because the rumours that he's going to be the next PM?
Shot caller. Leaking a story to the media, you know? Who knows? On top of that, yesterday he's come out with a statement that Theresa May's strapped a suicide vest to herself and handed the detonator to the powers at Brussels. You know, what, that language? And somebody who actually we know wants to become Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in very different circumstances. And he's just so free with this language. Just look back at his entire career. And there's a school of thought that looks at Boris and says, he's a very smart man. He's just got this sort of buffoonery about him. He's personable with people. I disagree with that first part of that statement. You know, there's a lot of buffoonery in there, a lot of public schoolboy attitude. But he is surrounded, like a lot of the people, Rees Mogg's been one of them, and others who are surrounded by vast wealth. And they're so secure within that because they can if they lose their job, they lose their job, you know. If I lose my job, I'm looking for a new job. Yep, so I have to be, I think, more respectful of my position, and I don't think they really are. They see it as almost a right. This is their right to rule the United Kingdom. And the buffoonery around it all comes from the public schoolboy attitude all the way through, and they surround themselves with There's nobody that can pull them aside and say, you are well out of order here. They just laugh off. They do it in public. They do it a lot more even in private.
Yeah, I've got no doubts about that at all. I mean, you're right about the whole buffoon act. It's not an act, it's just a buffoon. I'm sure he's a clever man, but that doesn't make him a smart man.
Yeah, I think he's educated. That does not make him intelligent.
Not at all. Yeah. And the gaffes he's made, I don't care about his private life. Don't care what he does. That's between him and his wife. I don't care if it should make no difference to anybody's real opinion of him. But that comment he made today, yesterday, is just appalling, completely beyond the pale, and I don't think that any decent Conservative could consider him for anything now. Yeah.
If an SNP or MSP turned out to make a comment like that, we would be hauled over the coals by our own party.
He'd be suspended.
Absolutely. And then the media would rightly rip us apart for coming to that.
Absolutely.
Well, Boris, it's just Boris's latest, you know.
He's a liar.
Picture of him on a zip wire with flags, stuff like that. It's just Boris. It shouldn't be just Boris. He should be held to the same levels of standards of behaviour that every single one of us should be held to.
Can you imagine if one of us had been down that zip slide with a pair of saltire pants on? I don't think that we'd
trying not to.
But I don't think we'd have got the positive press that the Boris the buffoon got when he did it. You know, we'd have got quite rightly crucified for it.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of politics and what you said was right, James, about private life being private. But unfortunately, we're seeing more and more that this is getting pulled up to the surface, and it's not just about the person who's maybe an elected member, but it's about the family members who are dragged through the mud, if you like. And I'm not sure how much really that helps politics, you know, when we're mudslinging on a personal level.
It doesn't at any level, and there's a thing the media have got used to doing. People want sensationalist stories, and if the journalists can't write sharp, concise political points which hold us to account, then some of them will just go looking for the easy story. And it's a he said, she said, you know, what's happening in the background, which has absolutely no bearing on someone's political viewpoint, how they're going to do their day-to-day job. It just fills column inches very easily.
I think you were very generous with the use of the word some, right? Because I would say most. I think there are some really, really good journalists out there, some excellent political journalists, and I think there's a lot of them who must get paid by the word. because they will just print anything. They'll make it as long and as damaging as they can, because the more damaging it is, the more headlines it's likely to get, the longer they can run it, and you don't give a hoot for the people, the innocent bystanders, if you like, that got hurt by it, that have got nothing to do with politics in the first place. And for me, that is just, it's not what the press should be about. We're meant to be, the press is meant to inform you and enlighten you, and too much of our press just now is doing it for titillation and, you know, for advertising revenue, and I find it very depressing. And I know because I've talked to somebody this week about it, that it puts good people off of getting into politics.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
And that is the biggest danger.
It probably puts some good people off getting into journalism.
Yes, I think it's very, very
this is the world I've got to go and work in, and it
Yeah.
does that. I'm sure I remember as a child growing up reading newspapers, or a young adult reading newspapers, and you get one column that put one point of view, and within the same newspaper,
Yes.
if another columnist who put a different point of view, and you were left to pick through those and say, okay, who's got it here?
Yeah.
Whereas now you get front page splash, or in whatever, to try and undermine people, to make them look small.
Yeah.
And even if the story is wrong, the apologies are buried in page 5 and a couple of column inches, but that's there. It sticks to people's minds. It's also there for history to people to go back and look at it. They can pick up the wrong impression of what was actually happening, because who goes to page 5 to find the retraction of the story? That front page will be there, and it'll be in social media, travels around the world in the blink of an eye these days. Yeah.
If they Google your name, they'll get the front page
Yeah.
story. They won't get the
Yeah.
apology.
Yeah.
You know, because apology is quite rightly say the apology. It's just too small to be recognised and seen. So it's there forever.
And it's also a chain of thought that when you're looking at a newspaper article, most people just read the headline in the first couple of paragraphs. So it's the headline that's usually the thing that catches your eye, and that's usually the most damning words that are there.
You've usually got to get the last couple of paragraphs where the person the story's about actually says, hold on, this is actually what happened.
Yeah.
Unless you've read all the way through to get to that, then, as you say, you're going with the headlines.
And there should be a responsibility on the headline to reflect on what the story really is, not in what the lazy sub-editor decides it should be. You know, and I think the newspapers should get held to account much more for that.
I think also there's a generation of people out there who believe that the papers aren't allowed to print anything that's not true. But I think they have got very clever at doing a spin on the truth. And they're not actually saying A or B, but they're just working their way around, giving you a kind of idea.
And put me in course.
Yeah. And it's kind of like somebody making the allegations. So the story's you making an allegation about X, Y, or Z, but actually there's no substance to it.
Yeah.
And that can be very dangerous.
And then all people in public life, it's not just politicians, that are put in that difficult situation. Do you respond to it? Because if you respond to it, you're just going to give them another. You're helping it to run and run and run. So often you just want to say, just leave this go. It's tomorrow's chip paper and all that sort of stuff. But it hurts.
Yeah.
If you're misrepresented,
Yeah.
it hurts. So you've got that line. Do I go back and go try and clarify this, or all we're doing is feeding the beast?
I usually have others that are saying to me, no, James, no, James, leave it now. Okay, because you're right, your first reaction is, whoa, this is not me, this is completely untrue. I was getting attacked on social media, which is not unusual from normal for me, and it was about something happening in Glasgow, and it was somebody else with my name. Right, so the papers had it, and you know, the papers were running with it and attacking me, so I call them papers, I think it was Express and the Daily Mail and stuff, and they were attacking me without checking to make sure it was me, right? There was another politician with the same name, and it was just lazy, and I was going to have a go at them, and I thought, you know, what's the point? You know, what's the point? As you say, it being page 5, 2 lines.
And that's the danger, obviously, you said, Ronnie, about Twitter, and before you know it, it's across the world. You know, and Twitter and Facebook and all social media can be used for good, positive purposes, but equally, you know, by the time that's run, it doesn't even matter if there's an apology somewhere, because that's lost, and you know, that's been shared a million times.
Social media has taken it in a completely different game, if you like. It's in terms of, we're all up for criticism, everybody's a journalist, everybody's got an opinion, and the trick of it, I've learned over the last 3 years, is not to read it. You know, it's an old Buzzing Man United story. Alex Ferguson took over at Man United. and he wasn't winning much, Alex, at that time, and his job was on the line.
That's right, one game away.
And that was it. He went to my Busby and said, I'm here, I'm one game away. If I don't win this cup game, I'm losing my job. If we don't finish, I'm losing my job. And Matt Busby, where are you hearing all this? This is the back page of a newspaper. So don't read it. Get on with your job.
Yeah.
So there's that, but I know that people, no matter what I say, we're here today, someone's going to go on social media, and him, his wife, his daughter, are all going to lob criticisms on me for whatever I've said. You've got to understand, it's their right to do so. I wish they'd meet me in the street and talk to me about it. I wish they'd come to one of my surgeries and have a discussion about it in a grown-up fashion. But we all like to put stuff out on social media. We all like to promote ourselves and say, I've been doing this, isn't this great? It's about getting that balance of not taking it to heart and understanding that I only respond to criticism that hurts me if it comes from somebody I respect. If somebody come after me and said, you're doing that wrong, and if somebody I respect, I think, okay, fine, what have I done wrong? Did I get that right? Did I explain it properly in the first place? Because more than 140 characters now is growing. Sometimes it restricts what you want to say, so you try to link it to an article. Did you read the article I linked it to? So that's what social media criticism I try to be. I have, again, it hurts you, it hurt me in the past, but then I have done a couple of things. I didn't explain that really well. But having a Twitter conversation, you're never going to get to end that conversation. So I tend to write something up and say, okay, that's what I think about it, and that's the end of it from my point of view. Having a conversation with somebody at some strange hour of the morning, going back and forth, is never going to resolve the issue. If you're up at 2 o'clock in the morning and they're up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're tweeting each other,
at least one of you is drunk.
Go put a kettle on and just
Exactly. Yeah. No, I like Twitter. I'm on it a lot, and I think you get a lot of good things about on it. And you can use it to build up relationships, but it does let the demons in. I don't mind any abuse, any criticism, until it gets to that point where it's kind of beyond the pale. Once it's just strictly abusive, I'll say to them, right, that's it, we're done. You know what I mean? And I'll block them. I've had all sorts of threats, abuse, all sorts of things. And at that point, there's been a couple of times you've had to contact the police, but most of the time it's wains behind the desk, but don't have any pulse. So.
Or the other thing is the made up profiles. There's
I've had
lots of made up profiles that are just churning out stuff to try and get a reaction out of you.
Yeah. For a lot of them,
I had a wonderful in the police and I had a wonderful one. You've got to laugh at these things. A guy sent me a picture of himself with a mask around his face, a scarf around his face, and he was holding a canister and had a very threatening pose. And he was wearing a football shirt.
Sorry,
there's a picture on the wall and stuff like that. And standing there, he sent it to me from his own email address.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't he?
That's behind the back. I said, I know who you are. You don't have a scarf, you know. Yeah. What is that about? But they feel they're allowed to do that to you.
Yeah.
And it is a threatening thing, no matter how puerile it is. Yeah. But they feel the right to come after you and challenge you. And I've said it before, I've always said to people, if you want to come and talk, let's come and talk. Not one person that's been aggressive towards me on social media has ever sat down and come to, on a range of topics. I said, okay, let's come and discuss this. Never.
Yeah. We get it quite regularly, and the other day I get called a coward, and so I go back to the guy and I says, just let me get this right here. You know my office address, you know where my surgeries are, you are tweeting me with a false name, and I'm the coward. Yeah. Let's try and figure this out. I says, so you know, if you want to come and speak to me, come and speak to me. But enough of this nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
Over on to America now, and I don't know if you saw Barack Obama this week was pulling no punches when he basically called Trump acting like a petulant child, and that he should be managed. Do you think that's a fair comment?
It depends on what managed was a euphemism for, but he should be put on the naughty step for the next, I don't know, is it 2 years or so, that he's still got, or until they impeach him or he gets imprisoned or whatever. I've never seen anything like it, remotely like it in the UK or the US. You know, this is a madman. I mean, he's going about screaming, there's somebody in here doesn't like me. Who is it? You know, and
I think a lot of heads went down at that point.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Spartacus.
It's strange. It's almost like a parody, isn't it? When Donald grew and Donald was doing his TV stuff and that, and then started talking about politics, and then people started looking further back and said he's been positioning himself for this for a long, long time. Or people have been positioning Donald for this for a long, long time. And I think, I might be wrong, I think it was what Armando Iannucci said when Trump got elected. He said, satire's dead.
Yeah.
That's it. There's nothing he can do or say, nothing we can do or say to parody that. He's not going out there. And Trump, unfortunately, that's what he does. He comes out, he says, it is beyond understanding. I have to say, I absolutely confidently predicted that he would not get elected. You know, oh, never happened.
Ridiculous.
People rein it back in, and then wow,
Yeah.
and you're going, he's president of the United States. Okay,
Most powerful man in the world.
well, I at times thought he would get smart people around him who would control what he was trying to do, and I just hope they're there somewhere. Maybe it's not the names we see in the press and the media, but whoever's got his finger on the button knows that, you know, don't give it to Donald after he's having a tantrum type thing, and you know, he is that powerful. Yeah? So I sleep in my bed easy at night because I believe that somewhere, somebody in there, within the workings of the White House, is smart enough and has got enough influence to say, let's just count to 10 here.
I'm just taking sleeping tablets. That's a better way to it. It is extremely terrifying, and I had exactly the same belief as yours. You know, he goes in there. There's sensible people in there, if you agree with the politics or not, but there's people who don't want the world to end in a blaze of glory. But I'm not sure there is. I think he's got rid of them all. What I'm hoping is before they left, they disconnected the wire between that apartment and what's underneath it. But it really does concern me. The only, maybe in some of the houses, if the Republicans need to grow up here. They have allowed them to get away with murder so far because they're more concerned about their own seats in the midterms. And I think that what they really need to do is they need to say, we're not going to support some of these ideas of yours, and we're not going to let anyone do anything. There's some decent ones, but there's... And he's abusing the justice system every day.
Very worrying.
You know, it's incredible. I mean, it's becoming like a third world country. But I kind of have faith in that it'll stop. That, you know, I know. I'm not becoming
you and I both had faith he wouldn't get elected in the first place.
Yes, exactly. I'm not exactly the best judge.
Somewhere's a big clock ticking down to the next election, and people are every day just watching that clock ticking down. Think just get through this.
Yeah, that's.
I think that's the preferred option.
Yeah. For America, that's probably the preferred option because they don't want to go through all the Richard Nixon.
And then who will replace them? It could be anything. It could be absolutely anything.
Could it be any worse?
Don't tempt fate.
Aye, seriously.
Don't really, you know. Yeah.
But do you think it's even scarier that the fact that we seem to have dysfunctional governments
Everywhere.
in America and in the UK,
Yeah.
and the two of them
Yeah.
seem to be working together?
It's a great argument for independent Scotland. It really is, you know.
Yeah.
We can do this so much better, and people have to wake up to that and realise that it's a serious level. At a serious level, it's a great argument that says, "Look at what we're doing to our country. Who do you want to give these powers to?" And I get through Cold War and stuff like that. We got quite Americanised. I'm from Greenock. We did Navy base across the road from across the river from us, and we got lots of American things. You know, we had 10-pin bowling alley. We go with barbecues in Greenock. It was fantastic, and we got very Americanised. We trusted America. They were our big pal. They were there to look after us, but that's sort of eroded and gone. And we've also, at that stage, I'm talking 1960s, looked at the UK government, which was a much more interesting time back then, I think. And we thought we'd a hand in what was been done. And we thought we did. And over the course of time, we've opened our eyes to that and thought, you know what? Has America really got our back? Are we just a missile launching base for them? You know, I'm not damning all Americans in any shape or form. You know. I've got a family that live there and are coming next week, so I better be careful what I'm saying.
You better hope they don't see this.
Better careful what I'm saying, you know. But there's that idea that we're not as attached to America as maybe we thought. Maybe we should be looking to Northern Europe, we should be looking at the Baltic states, we should be building trade relationships with those people who've got more in common with an attitude towards life which more, I think, sits better with the Scottish people. And we're not going to get that where we're under the yoke from Westminster. We have to have an independent Scotland making independent decisions, which is in the best interest of us for a change.
Yeah,
you know?
I think that's the big thing, is that no matter we've got a lot of good things from America. America's been, in the main, in terms of big empires, and it's been an empire, even if they don't like to call itself that. It's been that for some time, I would say. It's had its good points, its bad points. But it doesn't really matter who our influences are. You know, if we're going to be influenced by a big power, what we want the influences to be homegrown. We want to be able to make decisions that suit us in the relationships that we want. Just now, we are almost dictated to about who we have relationships by because of the Westminster link. They're taking us out of Brexit, going to make us do these mad deals with the US, which means that champagne will be spelt with an S and will be, you know. They're talking about champagne, right?
Okay.
And all these sort of things where it's just going to be a terrible deal for us, and we're going to suffer from it. You know, whiskey will not keep its brand recognition, and the Scots are going to suffer for it, for something that we've got no say over and actively campaigned and voted against. So I think that's the important thing about having the powers to make those relationships. I agree with Northern Europe country, European country, and that's when we should be looking to make our future, and along with the rest of Europe. And obviously we can work well with our colleagues down south. I'm sure they'll be fine. You know, I'm sure they'll be fine. We'll help them if they're struggling with water and stuff. But it's about who we want. It's not about being dictated about who we're allowed to work with. And for me, that's probably the most important thing about becoming an independent Scotland.
Just picking up on the idea of products, and I've been recently talking to people about geographical indicators, and actually it's astounding the amount of people who don't understand what geographical indicators are in terms of whether it's salmon or our Stornoway black pudding or whiskey or tartan even. And it's crucial for Scotland and our economy that these geographical indicators are protected, and obviously Brexit's a big threat to these.
Scotland, the brand is huge, and it's maybe we've got to travel outside Scotland to appreciate that. As we go to other countries and they identify with what is Scottish, and if we erode that,
which we're doing just now,
well, absolutely, we're doing it already.
Westminster's already started this.
Yes, absolutely, and it's these things happen a little bit at a time, and it's not so in the public eye. But it happens and it erodes and erodes and erodes. Then you get to a situation further down the line. You think, well, how do we get back to where we were? You've got to stop it now. There's absolutely no reason why we should be eroding the Scottish brand. From a Scottish perspective, there's lots of reasons why you want to do it. This new United Kingdom emerging from the ashes of its European Union relationship.
And this government has worked incredibly hard at building the Scottish brand. Incredibly hard at building it and increasing its worldwide recognition. On the back of the great work that's been done by all the companies that have been doing it in Scotland for many, many years. And to see it, to see Union Jacks being stuck on, British haggis. British haggis. It's just quite appalling, and that is just a taster of what we're going to get after Brexit. That's my honest opinion. As soon as Brexit is done, if we're still part of this United Kingdom, then that's just a taster of what we're going to see. Union Jacks everywhere, and the saltire will be just somewhere far in the distance. It'll be very difficult for us after that.
And one of the things that's reaching a bit of a crisis at the moment is the fact that because of Brexit we can't get fruit pickers because people are less keen to come over. And that again, that's a Scottish economy that's going to be affected if we have lots of fruit, vegetables or whatever that's left to rot because it can't be picked.
Exactly, and that's a good example. More concerning examples, I would say, for me is that we're going to struggle to get doctors and nurses. We're going to struggle to get students coming over, teachers coming over, lecturers coming over. We're going to struggle to get all these things when we've made the UK such an unwelcoming place that why would anybody select to come here? If you had a choice of places to go for jobs, for example, why would you pick the UK? Certainly not because they're welcoming you with open arms, or they're going to be grateful for you coming over here. In Scotland, most people are grateful and have got good relationships with their new neighbours, but the attitude from politicians down south. I mean, the Brexit vote, you were there, down south was it was a different campaign from up here. You'd look at it down there and it was all, to my eyes, it was all xenophobia. And up here it was about, well, we want to be part of the European Union, or we don't because we think that we could do better, or we think we'd do better staying in it, or whatever. But it was a more a political argument down there, or an economic and social argument, but down there it seemed to me to be all based around we're better than them, we don't need them. And I thought that for me is just a horrible precursor of what this country's becoming like, and we don't want to be part of it.
And the whole fruit picking stories, it's almost manufactured, because we've been saying for a long time, these people were not going to here, fruits rotting in the fields, and then 3 or 4 weeks ago we had government minister coming out to a farm, as a Kirsten Hare, Scottish Conservative MP, hosting the MP, hosting the minister, and I thought, oh, we're going to get an announcement here, because this is one of those hanging around the necks of the Scottish Tories, because they're fighting so hard for Scotland. And of course we did. 2,500 fruit pickers were going to be allowed into the country. We reckon we need over 40,000 to actually do the job properly. But that's what we've got. That's allowed. So I don't know whose farms are going to be allowed to go and work in. Yeah,
I'm sure that we could look through a list of donors and find out.
Well, that might be the first wave of people, but it's a nod in the direction of a serious argument, a serious issue that they said, oh no, we'll consider it and we'll let some people in. They talked to, early doors they talked about bringing in baristas on a separate passport, a separate visa, because we can't have coffee shops grinding to all, can we? And they'll pick and choose those.
Did you seriously just say there, we can't have our coffee shops grinding to a halt?
I wish I'd meant that. yeah. So yeah, it's an issue which they've got, and as you said, NHS, building sites, hotels and catering. Yeah, in London, initially London voted to remain. They got it. They understood it. You're going to walk by building sites, they all different accents in all the different countries, and by and large working together to construct things and to run NHS. To have hotels and catering functioning 24/7, you take that away. You take these people away.
Just you wait to see.
After Brexit, London visa.
There will be a London visa. That's exactly right. There will be a dispensation for the London area. No doubt about it. You've already seen people like Farage and trying to get a German passport or something like that. You've already seen Mogg telling his clients to bank outside of the UK because we're going to be a basket case, whilst they're saying, Brexit's good, but don't worry, we'll look after ourselves and they'll look after London.
But Rees-Mogg did say in 50 years' time everything will be okay.
That's good.
50 years' time.
That's all right for me then.
But it's okay for him and his sort and his family and his strata of financial income, because they can be planned. That their family pile has probably been there for hundreds of years. Mine hasn't.
I don't have a pile yet.
You touched on, James, the concept of empire. Do you think that that concept is just way outdated now, and we should be looking more at a global humanitarian type outlook?
We should be working in partnerships, not in sort of like structures where I tell you what to do. It should be all countries working together for a common purpose, but it might be different common purposes at different times. But we should all, there should be there clearly should be a global outlook, and it should be that everybody has the right to eat, and and we make sure that they can eat well, and that they've got somewhere watertight to live in, and that they're safe, and I know these sayings are there, these slogans are there, but they're not really held to. But I think for me it's about countries working in partnership and separate areas. What we do is we still have the aftermath of the Cold War, we still have a new nationalistic type Russia, whilst at the same time we've got barking mad right-wing Republican president in the United States who thinks that America should rule the world. And it's interesting because both of those are if we're talking strictly political, it's no longer the right versus the hard left, if you like, communism. It's two right-wing regimes that are trying to take over the world for power and financial gain.
But fear has always been used by governments to keep people in their place. It goes back to the Cold War. Before that, there was always some big enemy out there knocking at the door, and we had to tighten our belt. And it's been written about in many a book over time. fiction and otherwise, and it went from being the Reds under the beds type thing to okay, who's our enemy now? And at one point it was like aliens. You see the spread of alien movies and stuff like that, and it was out of the Star Wars program, for goodness sakes, And then beyond that, it became a case of it's Islam, it's the Far East, it's the Middle East, it's whoever. There has to be somebody that we can point the finger at and say, we've got to be prepared to make sacrifices, and spend billions of pounds on nuclear weapons or whatever. And you've got to cut back on welfare.
Yeah. When they say we, of course, they mean you.
You people that were cut back into welfare and like that. So it's been £220 billion, and we know it'll be more, and replacing trying because there's an enemy out there. That's always been that. There's always been somebody that has to be threatening us, so as we can't have a more egalitarian attitude to the world. We're used to travelling and meeting people and just seeing people face to face and understanding them. They've pulled that back in.
As why being part of the EU, being part of the United Nations, being part of NATO even to some extent, is important, although I have issues with all those organisations, right, particularly NATO. At least we're working in partnership with people, and we're trying to resolve problems together, where NATO is slightly different, but if you're part of the EU, you're not doing it on one side and you've got somebody else in competition on the other, except for maybe economic competition. But it's about working in partnership with people that are sort of like-minded and trying to make sure that you can bring others into it. I mean, one of the good things the EU did, and it may have caused problems for some of the other countries that may have ended up causing Brexit, is that they expanded it. They tried, they maybe did it a wee bit more quick than some would suggest, but they expanded it because they wanted to bring other people in and make people part of that whole grouping, and I think that was a wise thing and a sensible thing to do.
You don't go to war with people if you've got good trading arrangements with. If it's good for you to export your stuff and good for them for you to import their stuff, you don't go to war with these people. Exactly. Why would you? Because you've got too many business people talking to each other, even bankers talking to each other on a weekly, daily basis. So the understanding of where people are coming from is better constructed, and the mutual benefits of those relationships shine through.
And you realise
that when you break down those trading barriers, suddenly it becomes us against them. Yeah. We're fighting for that trade market, we're fighting for that influence, and that's when things just start to again slowly go wrong.
Yeah, you realise that they're just the same as you when you're working closely with them. That's really important.
And the Scottish Government had a wee treat this week when David Mundell was up at
always a joy.
The Constitution Committee, but he refused to confirm that Westminster wouldn't overrule the Scottish Government.
To be fair, all he was doing was not confirming what we already knew. The Westminster Government have already shown the disdain they have for Scotland. And unfortunately, I would say that Mr Mundell has shown his disdain for Scotland and its government as well. He's certainly not Scotland's place in man in the UK government. He's the UK government's man in Scotland, and he's shown that at every opportunity. He seems to be willing to go down in history as that guy, and I think he could have given himself an opportunity to sort of fight a bit harder in times like this and say, because he's made noises in the past that Scotland should not be treated in such and such a way, and then he caves in a wee bit like Ruth does. Ruth will shout for the rooftops about something, and then she'll get a phone call, and then she'll change her mind on single market or whatever the case may be. Mundell's done much the same, but it doesn't surprise me what he's done.
It's about staying in post. He doesn't stay in post as Secretary of State for Scotland if he upsets the powers that be at Westminster. So he's just taking their mantra, and he's going to bring that to Scotland. And the Seoul Convention being a convention, it's always going to be open to that, interpretations. That's the way it was written.
That's what's wrong with conventions.
There's always a power reserved, we know that.
Yep.
And Mr Mundell was just saying what the truth actually is. We have to again waken up to that and realise that we're in a situation where Westminster barks.
Yeah,
we're supposed to get in place, and that's what they're doing.
And today sees the launch of the Sunday National. Have you managed to have a look at it today?
I've got mine in my car.
Yeah, well, that's mine there.
No.
We handed out loads of free issues of the National yesterday in Greenock, and I even think somebody handing out free things, people are going, oh, what's that about? They absolutely flew yesterday. We could have ordered a lot more. We're saying it's a free copy of the National, and obviously in the back of it, Sunday National, we're launching tomorrow. It'd be a really good response from it. We had a team of people out working in the town centre, and they're all saying, these are flying out today. You know, sometimes historically you find people going, what do you mean it's free? It's free.
Yeah.
But people took it, and it also kicked off a lot of nice conversation with people as well. So
yeah, I'm really pleased it started. I think the timing of it's perfect. Great to see Richard Walker being the editor of it. I mean, Richard will do a great job. He has previously, and he's the right man to take it forward. I mean, we are heading to that other independence referendum, and I think that having this paper out there is going to, whenever Nicola says. But I'm confident that we'll have it, and we'll have it soon.
It's coming.
Yeah, there's no arguing about that. You know, I had a night on Friday night. Philippa was there, and Paul Cavanagh, wee Ginger Doug, were there, and the room was full, you know, and everybody was jumping. Everybody was enthused and excited about what's going to be happening very, very soon. And, you know, what we have to do is, it's not for us to wait for a date, it's for us to go out campaign, and then when the date comes, we're ready. Because it will be a short campaign this time, and it's one we're going to win.
Yeah. The campaigns have not really stopped. I guess there was a lull at some point naturally, and people got exhausted. But the campaigns, whether it be SNP branches, Yes branches, all these people are already out there doing their bit. So it's already ticking over in the back, and all we need is the date. The campaign's already running. We've been on a lot of good material in Inverclyde. We've got tasting a lot of media as well, and people are interested in it. And the conversations have not stopped. Yeah, but so I see the campaign has been a rolling campaign, which has never really gone away. But yeah, you know what it's like once somebody puts a date on it, it does pick up. I remember 2014 campaign, been working on since 2012, and then almost at the bells in 2014, people who had not engaged in the conversation, no, that's this year.
That's right.
And suddenly the momentum picked up, and it built and it built and it built. So you get to understand people are maybe not as active politically, not as involved politically, don't want a huge long campaign, but they'll come to it in their own pace. And when they come to that conversation, we have to be ready to say, here's the facts. This is what happened last time. Mind what they promised last time? What actually happened? Yeah. Here we go again.
Yeah, there's some good stuff out there for that. There's already, I mean, the parties put some good stuff there about, you know, what was promised, what's been delivered. So that all the information's out there. We just have to get it out to the people that matter, and the people that matter are the voters that are watching, and the many others who aren't watching yet, but will be soon.
And I think you mentioned earlier on, James, about, you know, the unfortunate thing is sometimes it's on the bottom shelf of the local shop, you know, and we need to, the idea of giving free ones away, I think, is really useful, because that introduces to people to it who maybe didn't know existed. So then go to
the news agency and say, why have you not got a copy of the National sitting here? I remember that before I was elected, back in the campaign in 2012, 2013, and going to shops and saying, oh, where's our copies of? And this is in a lot of different places.
Yeah, we all did that. I mean, it was really funny, wasn't it? I'd forgot about that.
Covered over again.
At the beginning when the National came out, but you would go into a shop and you'd be like, what's the National? Oh, you're the third person that's asking that, because we've got all the members going around and saying, right, mind, go in and ask for the National. And the shops, to be fair, would bring them in, and then you'd have to make sure that they were displayed properly and stuff like that. But we're in a different place now.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, gentlemen, that's it for this week. Thanks to Ronnie, Cowan MP, and James Dornan, MSP, for joining us, and thank you to you for watching. For more information about Broadcasting Scotland and our programmes, you can visit our website at www.broadcastingscotland.scot. While you're there, you can also subscribe for £5 a month, which will allow us to keep making our programmes. Look out for Scotland at 7 throughout the week, and the full Scottish will be back again next Sunday at noon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corri.